Good morning and good afternoon to all the participants for our masterclass. Today's session, Reducing Complexity of Cash Application in Europe with AI. We have with us masterclass speaker, John Salek. John, you want to get started with the session? But as we begin our session, I'd like to request all the audience to please keep themselves muted. And if you do have any questions, post them on the chat window and we will respond to those questions sequentially. Thank you very much, John. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Akshay. And as our norm is, we have another good program for you today. This one addressing the challenges and the solutions of applying cash in Europe, which is probably one of the most, if not the most, difficult environment for cash application in the world. So we'll start off with an introduction, introduce the topic, do a real quick compare and contrast of applying cash in Europe versus North America, which is probably the simplest sector in which to apply cash. Then we'll spend a little more time taking a deeper dive into the challenges of applying cash in Europe. And parenthetically, those challenges are somewhat similar to those that you would find in Latin America, Asia, Middle East, Africa. But we're going to focus on Europe today. And after we talk about the challenges, we'll talk about the solutions, which is what you're interested in hearing. And the solutions are rooted in the artificial intelligence technology. And we'll talk about the benefits, which are many, share with you a very interesting customer success story, wrap it up with a conclusion, and then take your questions. Quick introduction now. There's been major advancements in artificial intelligence-powered digital technologies. And those technologies have many applications, both within and outside order to cash. And within order to cash, these technologies are very, very helpful in the cash application function, and enables companies to realize large improvements in the cost of Cash App, the speed, and the accuracy. And those technologies are available today. They're up and running today. This is not a system of the future type discussion. These are real technologies helping real companies as we speak. And as I alluded in my opening comments, the European economy presents, some very unique challenges to achieving world-class performance in cash application. So we've got these new technologies, we've got a challenging environment for Cash App. You put them together, and your Cash App operations in Europe can benefit substantially from these AI technologies. Very, very quickly, there's many differences in the Cash App environment in Europe and North America. But let's just look at a few of them. And when I talk about North America, I'm talking about the domestic marketplace, applying cash from, quote, domestic customers as opposed to export customers. Well, one of the first major differences is the number of currencies in Europe. North America, you're basically dealing with two, US and Canada. Same thing with languages. In Europe, you're dealing with many languages, both written and verbal. Whereas in North America, it's primarily English. You may encounter some French from customers in the Canadian province of Quebec. And then certainly in Europe, there's many more banking relationships, lockboxes, banking regulations that you have to deal with versus North America, much, much fewer. You can operate very, very well with one or two banking relationships, and certainly the regulations within the U.S. are uniform. Let's take a little deeper look at the challenges of applying cash in Europe beyond these major differences here. Well, as I mentioned just in the last slide, the payments come in multiple currencies. So there's more foreign exchange differences in applying payments to open invoices. The Remit Advice comes in multiple languages. The necessity of utilizing multiple banks in different countries with different banking regulations, ramps up the level of complexity, no question about it. And we've heard from clients, companies, that the data transmission issues can be frequent, which places additional obstacles in the way. Another challenge, which is really not specific to Europe, really is a global challenge, is accommodating these newer fintech digital payment capabilities and payments themselves, which are increasing in popularity and volume. Some of the names that pop into my head when I think of fintech digital payments are Square, PayPal, Venmo, and there's many, many more. It's a pretty crowded marketplace, quite honestly. And then in Europe specifically, we've got payment services directives issued by the EEU. They're now in version 2, PSD2. And certainly those requirements, it takes time for any directive like this to be fully explained, interpreted, the exceptions detailed out, and we're still in the midst of that. And then, another challenge here again, not really confined to Europe, is the remittance advice and the way it's received. Now, the guiding principle of cash application is to apply the payments in accordance with the customer's instructions. I mean, let's not forget that. That's like rule number one and the guiding principle. And to the degree you stray from that, you're inviting significant problems with the customer and with the correction process. So that remit advice, you want it fast, you want it accurate, you want to be able to read it, you want to be able to follow it. Well, first, it comes in a number of different modes. It may come in as a paper remit advice attached to a check, it may come in a scanned image, comes in via EDI, comes in via email. You can get this remittance advice and download it from your customer's vendor portal and your own EIPP portal. Customer visits your EIPP portal, looks at the invoices, has the capability to pay them right then and there. And when they trigger a payment, they also input the invoices that payment is paying. So there's a lot of good data there, a lot of good data on your customer's vendor portals. Theoretically, everything you need to know about your invoices is contained in that customer vendor portal. And then, of course, various files from banks that come in various forms, various formats, need to be interpreted accurately. And then the remit advice itself, regardless of how it's transmitted or conveyed, is in basically an infinite number of formats where every customer puts your invoice number, the gross amount, the net amount, any deductions, deduction reason codes. That varies by customer. Is it in the upper left-hand corner, the lower right-hand corner, the center body of the remit? it varies. So that adds to complexity too. So the Remit Advice, which is the holy grail of cash application, comes in all different modes and all different formats. That's a lot of complexity. Now, human beings are well equipped to solve that complexity with training and with a number of months on the job. But that's manual operation. Similarly, with the Remit Advice on customer vendor portals, the vendor portals in theory are wonderful. It's everything you ever wanted to know about your invoices, the status of the open ones and how the closed ones were paid. But in talking with our clients, what we find is that while many of their customers have vendor portals, there's tremendous variation in the way you access them, navigate, and to secure the information you need. And it takes a significant investment of time, a number of hours, before one of your team members, your Cash App team members, is really proficient in navigating a vendor portal. As a result, a lot of our clients say, well, we only fully utilize a handful of our customers' vendor portals, and these are generally the larger customers with more volume, higher number of transactions. The rest, it's so difficult to navigate, and it takes so much time to master the navigation that we don't use those vendor portals to their full value. So another challenge. And depending on your industry, another challenge is this substantial number of deductions. I mean, nothing's better than getting all your invoices paid in full, on time, I might add. And that's just not the reality for a lot of companies. And creating that deduction, trying to capture the reason code, and then routing it efficiently for research and resolution is in many ways key elements to having a efficient and effective deduction resolution process. And that starts in Cash App. It's created in Cash App. It's launched from Cash App. So a lot of deductions is a challenge. And then for most companies, particularly if cash application is centralized, which is true for most companies, you're probably dealing with multiple ERPs. Companies make acquisitions and they say, oh yeah, take us a year or so to fully integrate it. Well, guess what? They don't get there in a year, and a lot of these acquired companies are never fully integrated, particularly with their IT systems. Oh yeah, we're going to bring everybody on board Oracle. Everybody's going to be on SAP. Well, the truth is that's a very long, difficult, and very expensive proposition. So you've got these essentially unconsolidated divisions and acquisitions out there. And that's a challenge that a centralized cash application department has to deal with. And just to give you an idea of what good performance is, to me, good performance in a cash application operation is one, accuracy, as we know the nightmares that misapplied cash create. And then two, doing it automatically, untouched by human hands. What's better than that? And Hackett's world-class performance for automatically applying cash application is 75% of payments. Now, some of you who work in the US may say, well, gee, 75% is not great. I mean, man, we've seen 85, 90, 92, we've seen much higher hit rates. But again, that's in an easier cash application environment. When you talk about Europe and similarly Asia, LATAM, the environment's much more complex, much more difficult. So a 75% hit rate operating across multiple countries and economies is actually pretty good. Is actually quite good. Let's take another minute or two here to expand a little bit more on these fintech digital payments, because as I mentioned, their popularity is growing rapidly, and it's a customer preference. And we talk about enhancing and providing a good customer experience. A major part of that is accommodating customer preferences. Now, you can't accommodate every little one, every exception, every one-off, but when you get a growing trend like this of customers preferring to use these fintech payments, you need to be able to accommodate it. Now, these are a bit of a science in and of themselves, but let's just take a quick look at them. You see they go by a number of names: digital payments, real-time payments, fintech payments, fintech digital payments, frictionless digital payments. But they all refer to the same thing: electronic payments. And one of the beauties is they transmit the funds and the remit advice together. And that's very valuable. Because you want to talk about receiving and applying cash quickly and accurately. It's nice when the payment and the remit advice come together. For example, that doesn't happen with EDI. So a lot of you who are using electronic data interchange, or EDI, with your major trading partners, think about it. The payment comes in via ACH or other electronic means to your bank, and the remit advice comes via an EDI transmission directly to you. So the two are not together, may not arrive certainly at the same time, and sometimes a little difficult to link. So, big advantage of digital payments. Payment and the remit advice arrive together directly between the buyer and seller. Technically, the seller's bank account. Secure payment gateway using a variety of methods of payment, and it's an account-to-an-account basis. So it circumvents lockboxes in many respects. It's just another ACH that you don't have to pay the lockbox to key punch the remit invoice into a data file for you, which costs. Another big advantage of these digital payments is they give you the ability to pay in multiple currencies globally. Now, for Microsoft, they have that capability. But for a lot of smaller, medium-sized companies, they don't hold currency in many different currencies. So boom, here's that capability right away. And it's becoming very popular with small and medium-sized businesses. Just take real quick, when you think of a small, medium-sized business, the vast majority of their time during, quote, normal working hours is spent generating and fulfilling orders. And then the administrative work gets done in the evenings or on weekends. Well, there you go. Digital payments facilitate that. You can do them at nights, weekends, whatever. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they're growing so fast in popularity. All right, so those are the challenges, and there are many. What are the solutions? Well, two major ones, both rooted in artificial intelligence. First one is IDP, Intelligent Document Processing. And basically, it's a cognitive data capture capability. And what does it do for Cash App? Well, first of all, it eliminates the manual extraction of remittance data and handling documents. Automates it. It extracts all the required data from a remittance document in whatever mode or format it comes in. Great. Automating a manual function. It also eliminates the key punch of the remittance data into a data file that can then be used to run through the AutoCash engine. So eliminating manual key punch. It's great. And it also has a machine learning capability which enables it to get better at extracting remittance data from the plethora of various formats that your customers present to you. So it automates a manual function. And if you're fully manual on these operations within Cash App, you can see productivity improvements of 70 to 90%. So that's the first step, capturing the data. Next step, applying it. And AI-driven Cash App eliminates the manual application of the payment to the open invoice in most cases, 90+%. The AI digital assistants perform this operation. Apply the payment to the open invoice and clear it on the AR ledger. Another bonus is it automatically creates the deduction or an overpay as well. Assigns a reason code if that information is available, creates the deduction and routes it through the resolution workflow. So what do these AI digital assistants do for the actual cash application? Well, they run the AutoCash engine and they automatically create deductions. Again, if you're doing that manually today, this is a big labor savings. This just adds a little more detail on what AI-enabled cash application is. We've talked about this. The upper half talks about extracting remittance data from everywhere. And then the lower half talks about actually applying, auto-posting the cash. And what's nice is these technologies integrate nicely with your bank lockboxes and your multiple ERP AR modules. Contain their own AutoCash engine. Does a nice job in automatically clearing small, short payments. So let's say, for example, a customer pays one of your invoices short by €7. Do you really want to create a deduction and route it for research and resolution for €7? No. We just want to consider that invoice paid in full. Well, the AI cash application will do that and write off the €7 difference, close the transaction, it's done. Adds to productivity. And this is where AI outperforms robotic process information. AI does much better with this wide variety of document formats. So also most of these AI technologies come equipped with some pretty powerful analytics capabilities. And that helps in a number of different ways. One, if you're responsible for Cash App, you want to monitor it and how's it doing? Well, you can create a custom dashboard that you can view every day. And it just shows number of payments in, number applied, number unapplied, what's the backlog, how many payments, how many dollars, how old is it, number of errors, misapplieds detected. It can also provide data for some nice root cause analyses on the more frequent unapplied or misapplied payments, help forecast those errors, and it provides a nice database of cash receipts to help your cash forecasting. Okay, so some nice capabilities here. And what benefits does it bring? Well, we've been talking about them all along. First one is increased productivity. Particularly if you're totally or primarily manual, you can see productivity improvements of 70 to 90%. That's huge. What other function do you have an opportunity to achieve 70 to 90% productivity improvements? I'd say none. Reduces the bank fees, particularly with the growth of the fintech payments. Applies the cash faster and more accurately. And ultimately, this leads to a a better customer experience. So if we look at the value chain at the bottom, we talk about improved productivity, lower bank fees, and the anchor customer accounts pays off with fewer erroneous order hauls. So let's say you have customers who don't pay you well. Financially, they're not very strong. So every time they submit an order, you hold that order. You check their AR status. And if they're falling behind, you call them and you say, hey, can't process this order until you make a payment. Well, it's a shame if you hold an order for a past due invoice that was paid 2 days ago, but your Cash App hasn't caught up yet. Talk about alienating a customer. There's a good example. So the speed and accuracy of Cash App is an important element. Nice success story here for you. It's an IT company, operates on a global basis, implemented most of the Emagia receivables platform. But we'll focus on the Cash App here. This is an Oracle ERP, 58 business units, 44 countries, multiple languages, 170 banks. So all those challenges we talked about in the fourth or fifth slide are here, embodied right here. And in Europe, they were able to take their auto cash hit rate from 45% to the 85 to 90% rate. Huge, huge improvement, and great advance for them. All right, so let's wrap it up here. What's our conclusion? One, there's a huge opportunity for many companies out there to improve your Cash App operation in terms of cost, timeliness, and accuracy. It's achievable using these AI-driven technologies we've described. So you put the two together, and you can automate 70 to 90% of your manual operations within Cash Application. Your questions.
Thank you very much, John. As we come to the question sections, the first question is, of all the challenges inherent in the cash application process, which present the greatest challenge applying cash in Europe?
It's the large number of currencies, languages, and local banking relationships and regulations. It's just a lot of complexity, and that's a major challenge.
Right. The next question is, can AI document data capture assistants extract data from portals?
Yes, it can. And as I mentioned earlier, both portals, both your customer's vendor portal and your own EIPP portal. And again, I keep coming back to these vendor portals. In theory, they're the answer to all your questions about the status of your invoices, unpaid and paid. You don't have to call anybody. You don't have to wait on hold. You don't have to send an email requesting information. It's all right there. Now, using them is not as easy as advertised. So that's a big challenge, no question about it. But to the degree you can overcome that and increase your proficiency with these vendor portals, then you're well off. And again, this AI automation we're talking about can certainly access the information from the vendor portals and your own customer portal. Well, listen, if any questions occur to you after this webinar, please don't hesitate to contact us at the address listed here. I don't care if it's 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now. Love to entertain your questions. And a reminder, please join us for the next masterclass, which is all the way into October 7th, at the same, the regularly scheduled time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thank you for attending, and hope to see you at the next.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks a lot for a great session. All of you look forward to your next session, which is on accelerating cash flow and reducing costs with digital payments. I repeat that again, it's accelerate cash flow and reduce costs with digital payments. We look forward to seeing you for our next session on Thursday, October 7th. Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Yep, you take care. Bye-bye.